An arrogant boss fires an expert, leading to an £800,000 project disaster. Sweet revenge unfolds, but the story ends in tragedy. Who am I? Do you know? It backfires on an egotistical manager when in la $800,000 project goes off course because he sacked an invaluable staff member. First of all, this never happened to me. I was with the Indie VY Duel when they got a call concerning this problem. Then he walked me through it all. He is not on Reddit, hence I am sharing it. It is valuable. Every name has been modified to guard corporate and personal identities. The plot depends much on listed structures. There is a mechanism in place in the UK for maintaining historic and significant constructions. A building deemed historically significant is referred to as a listed building. The guidelines for its evolution, preservation, and enhancement are rather rigorous. I have to be obscure about the labor involved, else it would be too simple to name the people engaged. Alistair, a buddy of mine, is quite specialized in a very small field of building, using a very ancient building technique not used for several millennia. He fixes and renovates buildings. His whole output focuses on listed buildings and conservation projects. Work needed on a Grade 1 listed property. BCP Limited, the major contractor, was handling the building generally. There is quite specific study on one aspect. The architect pro VY did a list of suitable candidates, as the contractor management knew no one who had done it. The contractors selected my friend since he was most available early on. 5 days into the project, the major contractor, BCP Limited, arrived on site. Alistair's words: he was a boisterous gobshite throwing his weight about. Alistair ignored him while he was merely working. One of his carpenters was directed by the boisterous gobshite to make him coffee. The carpenter vanished. The noisy gobshite kept prowling and grumbling about delays costing him a lot of money. The boisterous gobshite asked my pal a question 15 minutes after the carpenter vanished. "Where is that chippy with my coffee?" asked the noisy gobshite. "Chippy equals carpenter. Chippy equals carpenter." "Alistair, I'm not clear. Go and find out." The noisy gobshite says, "Alistair, I'm only here for this job," gesturing at the wall. "I work for BCP Limited, not for you." The noisy gobshite: "It makes no difference if you're an employee or a subcontractor. You still are working for me. Now go and locate my coffee." Alistair: "First of all, I find it offensive to be spoken to like that. Manners. Second, my contract with you is to do these walls, nothing else. I most definitely am not a gopher." The noisy gobshite: "Oh, do you not value being spoken to in such a manner? For which subcontractor do you now work?" Alistair: "None. I run my business alone, just me." The noisy gobshite: "A day laborer, and you have the guts to address me in such a manner? Do you know my name?" Alistair: "Sure." "Well, you're fired," the noisy gobshite says. "Get out of the premises right away." Alistair says, "Okay, just get off the site," says the noisy gobshite. Alistair grabbed out his phone and started recording. Alistair: "Okay, I'll leave. Just only VY denke you add VY, said me to leave." Grabbing Alistair's hand containing the phone, the noisy gobshite yelled into the phone, "Get off the site, you idiot," the noisy gobshite says. "You're let off. I'll have you thrown out if you're still here in 10 minutes. Alistair: "Cool. Not problematic." He took up his gear and left. The contractor's site manager passed him, ironically with a coffee for the boss, as he was Leah VY-ing and smiled. "Sid, the site manager, you're Leah VY-ing. Bloody part-time, kidding." Alistair: "No, your boss just sacked me. We have signed out our contract, apologies friend." The site manager said, No, allow me to arrange things here. Please wait kindly." Alistair left the site, knowing something the boisterous gobshite lacked. The site manager was losing his head. In the UK, just 7 persons are certified to handle the task. Every one of them had a waiting list. Alistair had been the only one accessible. 12 missed calls by the time he arrived home. That was Thursday. 2 working days absent so far. He claimed he would go back only if he was paid for the extra days and personally apologized to the employer. I met my friend as he was answering a call from the site manager stating the boss apologizes, but is out of the country, so cannot apologize personally. Alistair also informed me he warned the other specialists over the phone, but they had all been contacted on Friday asking to be assigned work. Nobody picked up the work. They were all booked full to warn him. Alistair also called the architect. Under such circumstances, some dishonest builders attempt to falsify the work and bodge the job. Alistair is going to keep his gun's money for all missing days plus a face-to-face apology. He is positive he will grasp it. I mentioned I would pay anything to see the in-person apology. Update 1. The site manager called to inform Alistair he was said by the noisy gobshite threatened legal action should Alistair fail to complete his work. The site manager became really ashamed and apologetic. Alistair reminded him he left and had documentation proving he was let go. The site manager called once more to inform the noisy gobshite will be personally apologizing on Friday. Could Alistair begin tomorrow? Alistair said no. Following the legal action threat, the criteria are different before work starts. A face-to-face apology, additional compensation for lost days, paying the whole contract TR value up front before work starts. All of this has to happen on Thursday. He can start today and still expect to finish before his next reservation should he work weekends as well. He has just enough time. I questioned him about why he isn't charging the man who is such a wanker a hefty extra fee. He remarked it's not the done thing to take advantage of businesses under time constraints. It looks bad. One of my pals apparently is a guy from the 18th century. Edit. When Alistair mentioned just 7 others do this work, I misinterpreted him. He intended 7 different companies distinct from his own. Since they are small companies, he argues it is most likely just about 20 persons capable of doing it. Still a limited amount, although not as humorously tiny as 7. I apologize for misleading all of you regarding the count. Update 2. Sadly, an apology appears unlikely. Alistair has found that the site manager was sacked for not alerting the noisy gobshite of the circumstances earlier. Alistair told the operations director for BCP Limited, the second noisy gobshite, that he would not be returning to the position, so an apology is not needed. Apologizing for everything, the operations director promised to very liberally renegotiate. Alistair informed him he had only thought about returning to the position as a personal courtesy to the original site manager. He feels no need to go back as he is not there. The operations director indicated he will contact Alistair, but omitted any explanation why. He didn't say, give him his job back or I won't come back. I wondered. Alistair remarked the boisterous gobshite is too weak and petty to be guided by a craftsman. It will have to be the concept of the company for the site manager. They won't bring him back if I order them to. Alistair thinks it's difficult to obtain a job at 61, since the site manager is excellent at his work, but only 4 years from retirement. I have decided that Alistair appeals to me even more than 3 days before 3 updates. It is 2 in the morning here. We just came out of the bar. Alistair answered a call from the dismissed site manager while we were out. Alistair reported the circumstances to the architect this afternoon. The architect got in touch with the terminated site manager to let him know about a company needing a site manager just before 9 p.m. The dismissed site manager called Alistair. I had to sit through the one-sided phone call. I had to have looked like I had a house full of sparrows, childishly thrilled. Then Alistair filled in for me. The site manager rang to thank him and find out his preferred drink, so he might bring him a bottle. He is seeing them on Friday, even though he does not yet have a new job. The architect is hopeful since apparently his VYC has some weight. Alistair first rejected. Alistair, I did not get you a job, the architect dumped. Site manager, but you told the architect I had been sacked because of you, therefore you set all this in motion. I never have to deal with that annoying pilot ever once again. Alistair. Alistair left no clear identification for the irritable pilot. We will have to conjecture. Alistair mentioned his drink is Carta Gold Reserve. He declared he would only take a bottle if the site manager lands the new position. Be sure the site manager VY sit and sip the Carta with Alistair. The whiskey consumption does not seem to include the attractive scribe who painstakingly and time-consumingly skillfully recorded this narrative down on Reddit. Alistair elegantly said, piss off knobhead, you can get your own drink. Except that nobody gets to see the tosspot, noisy gobshite eat crow when he has to apologize. All excellent news. Ideally, I had great anticipation about that. Alistair and the SAC site manager know each other outside of the office. 2 separate clubs, they are members of charitable organizations in the same location and cooperate extensively. Alistair is roundtable, whereas the site manager belongs to the Rotary Club. Though you never know, I doubt he's a knight. Alistair was contacted by the operations director of BCP Limited to propose that they kindly renegotiate the money by bringing the site manager. They have missed the boat. Alistair says he cannot finish the work on his own before beginning his next employment. Should all go without a hitch, there's an absolute minimum of 11 days later. Alistair's next employment begins on November 4th. Assuming he works weekends, there are 10 days left. Last minute. I wish I could be a fly on the wall when the noisy gobshite isn't. Many people often ask, what does Alistair do? If I said what it was, it would be quite identifying. I could as well tell you his actual name and address. Apologize. There are extremely few of them since it takes 5 years to become just competent and at least 9 years to be a master artisan. At least one master present is needed for the jobs done. Update 4. Bad news. The site manager who was sacked did not land the other position. He met the new company, but they're not extending an NVY tatai onto him. The explanations are not OBVYS. Alistair is seeing him Sunday to go over it. Though Alistair is not at blame, I can sense he feels guilty about it. The site manager claims he will act regarding unjust firing, though I imagine this would be a win-win-win. I suppose life isn't like that. News about the sacked site manager, the current state of affairs, is not as dire as first assumed. We misinterpreted what transpired on Friday. Alistair chatted with him yesterday. That aspect is accurate. The employer he VY cited on Friday is not hiring him in the usual manner on a distribution center bill. They have, however, presented him with a fixed-term contract spanning 18 months, though not ideal. On the plus side, it pays somewhat more than BCP, though just 18 months it is better than nothing. Should another project surface, the new business also has the option to extend the contract. Alistair has heard that someone Bulgarian is VY citing to cover for the work. Alistair was grinning when he informed me he believes he understands exactly what will happen. Some 19th century Sophian structures feature a comparable but different method that was used. Alistair believes the man will apply such an approach, though two extremely crucial elements are different. It looks comparable. Alistair has opted to hold off. Alistair is going to add VYSE, the client, and the planning department to verify the two components. He intends to allow the Bulgarian to finish the job and get paid. The Bulgarian will have used the incorrect tools unless he is familiar with the English approach from the 17th century. It would mean pulling it apart and beginning over. They treat this kind of work quite rigorously. Though I hardly desire this, I truly hope this comes true. I'm a minor dude. More info. Many people are wondering when Alistair would find out whether the Bulgarian performed the work as expected. Given that there are few vendors of one of the materials, Alistair might know really quickly. Should the Bulgarian get in touch, Alistair will be informed. Alistair said it's a tiny, incestuous part of the industry, and they gossip like old women, like older women, we all gossip. Alistair is Leah VY-ing it alone till told the work is done and the Bulgarian is paid. If he does not VY sit there, he wants not to jeopardize the man. Alistair said, I don't want the Bulgarian to drag his arse over here and go home empty-handed just because I can't wait to drop silly bollocks. The man has a Lee VY-ing to support him. I'm going to wait. Silly Bollock is the same person as Noisy Gobshite, just in case of uncertainty. Unless he works weekends, the Bulgarian should finish his job in 3 weeks. Alistair will know when the work is done as he knows several people at BCP head office and several on site. I must thus wait on my hands for 3 to 4 weeks and appear to be a non-excited 7-year-old girl not complaining about Christmas approaching. Update 5. According to Alistair, the Bulgarian got right to it and began working. Materials have been delivered, but from an ordinary building supplier, though they sell it in Bulgaria. The items he requires for the work are too heavy for him to carry with him. He hasn't asked for it from the UK Pro V Wider. 3. But only one has enough for this work since Alistair brought it in for him. He is therefore not using the correct materials unless he is RE-VYing by Roden. Though he was not bothered by Raka's gobshite, Alistair would not let it go unrecorded. He is a purist in terms of historical accuracy and truly enjoys maintaining all the structures he works on. I therefore have to hold my water for 3 to 4 weeks. Alistair claims he might finish earlier if he uses more contemporary materials. If you stay in the 17th century, 3 weeks is the period about this. I have become such a weirdo. Alistair knew I was after information after I phoned him earlier under cover of pretext. Do you want me to fit a body cam so you can watch and hear everything as it happens? Alistair asked me. I answered that would be great if it would not be too much trouble and you could link me into your phone calls. Laughing. Alistair said, you knob cheese, Is it okay if I cover the lens when I'm shagging my wife? Personal Ollie, I don't do those two things at the same time, but whatever floats your boat, I said. Alistair, you were telling me you do them separately? Me. Right after she washed all the garbage off the sheets after doing it. A few of us are finicky, the VYD said. Piss off, you're an uptight clean freak. Hangs not farewell, not see you shortly. English Beha VY, or is not what it once was, though I realize it doesn't look like it. Really, I do have a life. I never would have thought I would be typing Update 6 when I originally started working on this. Update 6 mini news stories 2 weeks ago. The Bulgarian completed his work and returned home. Those who met Stefan the Bulgarian said he was a decent man and a really diligent worker. He worked weekends and 12-hour days to help to offset the expenses of living in UK. Alistair is glad he waited until Stefan paid before he reported the work. Knowing what he discovered about Stefan, Alistair already felt rather certain Stefan was not performing as required. None of the 3 companies he checked, the sole UK suppliers of the most unusual substance involved in the job, said they had an order for the site. Stefan might have imported it, of course, but nobody on site had seen an international material order. As scheduled, Alistair thus made calls to the client, the architect, the local authority planning department, and Historic England. He waited for them to investigate after outlining his worries in the simplest, least invasive manner possible. Though it just took a few days, I can really say that I have never been that nervous or committed in anything unrelated to my piss. The architect produced the first report on incorrect materials and technique applied, not the English one demanded. He had applied a Bulgarian technique from the 19th century rather than the 17th. The architect was really agitated. Alistair aide stated this phone call was blue, but he had never heard the architect using foul words before. The architect apparently termed the boisterous gobshite ignorant wumble. Alistair defined a wumble for me. I knew nothing approach is welcome, not wanting people to believe this was anything to do. The architect said he was going to get in touch with the local authorities. Most of the remainder came to Alistair's second or third hand. He knows some of the staff from BCP. I wanted to know whether it was challenging to get them to tell him anything. He mentioned they lacked the quick, adequate phone pickup ability. The location was VY cited and the work examined by the local government planning officials. They informed the contractor that the work had to be cleared and corrected since it was totally improper. Then it became fascinating. Looking about the property, the inspectors discover a problem. It would be too simple to pinpoint the buildings involved, hence I cannot be exact about this. The builder had wrecked some of the structure, though it was not very significant. There was an internal feature included into the roof construction. Although they were not led to, they removed it and replaced it with a far superior modern support. The project manager, the new site manager, or staff member neither understood the significance. Who ordered it to be replaced with a cheap, quick alternative rather than the slow, expensive rebuilt option? Of course, it was noisy gobshite. Destroying anything on this kind of property is illegal jail sentence type of crime. It's a huge fine even if they avoid jail. Everyone in that company is thus pointing fingers at one another and claiming no accountability. According to Noisy Gobshite, he did not direct the internal roof structural components to be removed. The project manager has email pro VYing he did. The client asked all of the contractor's employees off the site on Tuesday the 19th. They are currently looking over everything. They're most definitely firing the contractor. They have written guidelines for bids from fresh contractors. They will also sue the contractor for the expenses of undoing and fixing all they have done improperly. The architect's projection came at £800,000. The local government planning department wrote to the contractor detailing their mistakes and alerting them of their intentions for inspection and the likelihood of prosecution. On the day the letter arrived, Noisy Gobshite vanished to the lawyers, claims the staff within an hour. Alistair received 3 calls from 3 separate BCP phones as word of the letter spread around the workforce. Now we are awaiting a few things. 1. The client's checkup should that prove BCP has damaged the site, the client entitled to terminate the contract. BCP has a huge repair debt and does not get paid. 2. Local authority inspections conducted by conservationists. Should they have destroyed elements of the property, the local government will punish BCP as a company and the NDVY dual responsible. Alistair is rather disappointed since it is impossible to rebuild the internal framework lost that was sitting there performing its job for 400 years until that just stain and picture. He said it goes then and that is it never again. He comes across as really depressed. I'm guessing Noisy Gobshite is yearning. He had his own coffee that day last month. Edit. The letter to BCP, not their actual name, did not threaten a prosecution. It simply made them aware of the intention of the planning department to send a professional to check the construction and more especially the changed area. Apparently, should prosecution take place, it takes eternity. My real apologies for misleading all of you. Like everyone else, I was overly eager to grab my pitchfork and start belive VYing the worst. Wishful thinking mixed with Chinese whispers meant that the story was far more serious and advanced by the time it reached Alice. Though it's more likely to be in 6 months than in 6 days, Noisy Gobshite may well be prosecuted. Since I started, that represents the second correction. I promise to try to be a little more deliberate on next re-VY signs my error, not Alice. Alistair cautioned me that not everything that comes in your ears has to flow directly out of your tongue. You're very eager to feed the masses, although they might believe you currently farting rainbows. If you make a bollocks of the data, this won't last like always. He is correct, as uncomfortably customary. Information asked a few have inquired about the fate of the sacked original site manager, but I wasn't sure until now. We met in the pub. Alistair, the manager, 2 others also subject to fidelity insurance checks. He most certainly has the new job. His starting date is February 9th. BCP paid him off in place of notice. Firing is done according to They paid him just over 3.5 months' wages in one lump as his contract pro VY dead, 3 months' notice, and he was due 12 holiday/vacation days. He also gets to retain the car till March. I was shaking like a dog when he fired me, he added, but the wife reminded me that I could take my pension early and how much I hate that company, especially that dodgy. I stopped worrying when the architect contacted me about the distribution center job. He started the new work on a somewhat better pay after land. The main drawback is that the employment is just guaranteed for 18 months, although it's not certain. There's a great chance the organization will retain him following that. He first intended to bring Noisy Gobshite to an industrial tribunal for unjust dismissal. Now he won't, since he won't suffer financially. OBVY, usly, I'm glad I'm not losing money, he remarked. But I was looking forward to beating that Watson in court. He is building a better sleigh and several reindeer with the additional time. Right now, certainly a sleigh, it's on the rear of a truck. Father Christmas is on the sleigh, performing Christmas carols at window rattling volume, gathering money for charity, while his company strolls the area decked as elves and snowmen. I have oftentimes been pulled into. He brought Alistair the promised whiskey. Alistair ad VY said he shouldn't, but the site manager remarked, "Why, Yorkshiremen keep their word even to a shower of soft shandies, sipping Southerners like Oolong. Besides, I'm not risking breaking this lucky Even the alcohol came at half price." Simultaneously pointing at him, Alistair and I said, "A real Yorkshire." For the uninitiated, Yorkshire residents are known for 2 things: highly straightforward communication and financial restraint. We left the pub after ridiculing him for implying that I was a Southerner and headed to the garage of the site man so we could sip the whiskey and appreciate his slave building. Would they send me some freebies if I told you all how great Carta Gold Reserve tastes? Born close to Kavanagh's GLF, I'm Welsh, and I'm sobbing and BTH, hence you have most likely seen some awful grammar. I'm full of whiskey. So right now, I'm debating it is past my bedtime, 1 a.m. Bye for now. Update 7. I believe there might be some karma justice on route. Inter-VYUs under control have been conducted with Noisy Gobshite. It indicates they are ready for the possibility rather than that they are absolutely suing him. They will also do so with the sacked site manager next week. They also followed the same process with the project manager. The site manager is sure he has nothing to concern about. He was sacked, hence the decision was taken to remove the pieces of roof support. He added he was sure the Noisy Gobshite would have sought to assign culpability to a site man if he had been present at the time of the illegal modification. He said that cowardly slop-shoulder turd would have shot all over me to save his own skin. Fortunately, the project manager has EVY Denke in the form of an email pro VY in Noisy Gobshite ordered the task. Noisy Gobshite sought to con VY NCE him not to forward it onto the local authority planning department. He threatened him when that didn't work. That backfired when the project manager told the investigators that Noisy Gobshite instructed him to delete the email. In addition to neglecting the risks, my buddy, a lawyer, informs me that destroying EVY Denke and meddling with a witness are crimes in of themselves. Noisy Gobshite will not stop excavating a deeper hole. If he gets away without FING legal repercussions, I will be really let down. He is nevertheless clearly in pain. The major story of the week, Noisy Gobshite has been let off after learning from no less than 4 separate BCP. Alistair announced it yesterday, Saturday. They eagerly wanted to tell him, he said, then the discussion followed this pattern. Me, how is that feasible? How does the owner find himself let off? Did he stroll up to a mirror and declare you're as much use as in Frank's drum kit you're fired? Alistair, d'avou ypsilondi? Nope. You know he inherited the company from his uncle and dad. Me exactly. Alistair said you know his brother and cousin own a slice each. Me? Anyway, Alistair, they fired him since their combined share is over 50 Fantram. Louise, the accounts manager, told me they're pissing their pants. As long as the money came and they were content to leave Noisy Gobshites in charge, but today their golden goose seems very sick. Losing this contract, the fees and penalties scared them since it will close the company. They therefore asked the customer owner to bring BCP back to complete the deal. Part of that is persuading the building owner that Noisy Gobshite has nothing bearing on the business. Clearly, they're putting Noisy Gobshite beneath the bus. According to Louise, a Noisy Gobshite fired at him with screaming and violent threats. He required escort off the property. He has been phoning staff members posing queries and acts shocked when Indie duels refuse to assist him. Louise claims he truly wants to be loyal to him and thinks the staff like him. The man is in cloud cuckoo land, she declared. Me, he will be really offended. I wish I could have seen the face of Numpty as it was developing. Alistair says it's nothing that the Scrat doesn't deserve. I promised the person who told me I wouldn't tell anyone, yet hence there is another, but I can't tell you about. Me, you is what relevance does it have? Alistair, it's significant, transformational for the theme. Me, I wish I could tell you it nearly gave me a hard-on. Me, fing hell, it must be big if it can get that ugly appending to do anything except hang there like the last chicken in the shop. Alistair, what a drama this is. She believes I should share with her this confidentially. Anything I learned given our marriage, she expects me to be able to tell her everything. I said it's not something I keep secret, though. I had hoped I would get, I appreciate you have integrity, dear husband. No, Mrs. here is enraged since she believes I'm a knobhead. Louise's employment title and name have been changed to defend the innocent. I don't want any of you holding your breath. It looks like it will be a few months before he can VY to me with this fantastic. The building owner client has completed their inspection. 2 portions are unacceptable. The damaged section and the one Alistair ought to have completed, but Stefan did instead. They are rather unhappy. Usually the local government believes it's the owner cutting corners when listed structures are harmed. In this instance, though the owner is an austere, ancient institution committed to maintaining significant structure, they didn't enjoy VYing to establish. They had nothing to do with the building's damage, as they are not used to being accused of anything dubious. Alistair stated it appears they have written off BCP since they have made a type of tendering request to multiple other firms specialized in excavation. Then he spewed a bunch of jargon I neither knew or recall. Me, they have asked a few firms to quote a price for the job in simple English. Alistair says that's a very simplified way of describing it, but I don't have the time or the crayons to explain it to you. Me. Okay, let us say they are requesting job-rated prices condescending, hence, I was anticipating this tale would develop to a crescendo with Noisy Gobshites suffering something terrible, but it's just sort of faded with a whimper while we wait to find out what legal action will be pursued. Real life moves slowly, quite in January 212,020. Hi there, this is Martha's wife. She requested me to apologize to the internet for his silence. On January 7th, he was injured in an automobile accident. Though he won't be online for a little, we are confident he will fully recover. I explained it's only Reddit, but he's a compulsive freak about not disappointing others. I thus assured them I will include Reddit in the list. Here I am informing all the folks he doesn't know why he hasn't finished imparting something they most likely aren't reading. March 2nd, 2020. Hello, Mark. Once more, his wife. Direct messages numbered more than 200. I appreciate all of your remarks, as well as your wishing of him. Well, I have read them all to him. I'll address the 3 most often asked questions. Mark's situation changed. What a big lorry drove straight into the rear of him while he was still stationary in his automobile about to exit the freeway. Between that lorry and the lorry ahead of Mark, his automobile was destroyed. Among his multiple shattered bones are nose left orbital and cheekbone left radius, iniform left hand right tibia, and fibula lower leg, and 4 ribs, one of which pierced his left lung. His left EY center VY shound is somewhat damaged. However, we hope this is transient. He needs more surgery since he has some tendon damage in his right hand and has 112 stitches over. Though he looks like a wreck, he might heal free from any serious damage. If it were me, I wouldn't cope, but for as long as I have known him, he has always been as hard as nails. I went to pieces when I initially arrived at the hospital, and he was lying there covered in blood cables and tubes, and couldn't talk properly in minutes. He had me giggling. He has always been really adept in knowing the appropriate response. Not being able to use his hands is the thing most bothering him. When ought he to change the narrative? It might take some time, though. I could ask the guy to VYD contacted for an update post. Certainly cannot tell a narrative like Mark. Can I'm OBVY. Usly biased. But Mark seems to be the most entertaining man I have ever met. I start to laugh. So much I cannot breathe as he and a VYD get going. I have had VY set him to temporarily forget about everything. But getting well, if it starts to disturb him, though I've told him I'll do some secretary role-playing, and he may write the narrative to me, he will finish it. He always finishes what he starts on. I wish my self-discipline was 100, that of as a few have inquired whether they might give him money cards or gifts to cover missed income or medical expenditures. Thank you so much for offering, but it's not necessary, as we live in the UK. Fortunately, healthcare is free. He wants none of anyone's money. There's a long-standing charity we have sponsored called Macmillan Cancer Support if anyone feels driven to do something. At last update, knowing who I am would help you. The VYD against boisterous gobshite narrative the 22nd of May. 2020 slow, mainly grunted. This username belonged to Mark, my spouse. He pinned a narrative on his friend VYD and a company owner he referred to as noisy gobshite up until he was in a January vehicle accident. Mark had been updating a narrative. He requested me then to let everyone know he was hurt and to update the narrative after he recovered. Mark sadly died barely over a week after my pre-VY's comment. Everyone thought he was healing, but he passed out and died extremely rapidly without warning. Although the team did all they could to save him, his aorta had burst. They claimed it is not unusual in auto collisions and had most likely been damaged during the accident. Although I'm sorry I didn't update this earlier, to be honest, I totally neglected this. I discovered how many people were waiting for Mark to wrap up the narrative only after I returned to go over Mark words once. Though I'm not sure how many people will VYEW this update, would you kindly forward this news to everyone you know who is waiting for Mark to respond? Many thanks. I appreciate the hundreds of people that posted get well notes for Mark. I'm sorry I ignored you all for so long. But for the past 3 months, I've been bewildered. Mark would have chastised me and most certainly objected to my Leah VY-ing everyone in uncertainty. Many thanks to the persons who sent Macmillan Cancer Support money. Though it seems odd to have money given in the name of mostly grunt at last, I want to thank the moderators, especially Marari01 for guiding me and outlining how I might notify everyone Monday, May 24th, 2020 for the wonderful messages and VY tool hugs I have seen over the past day. I am most grateful for hours I have shed tears. One finds it difficult to define what good sobbing is when one loses someone. Those who have lost a loved one will most likely relate. Most of today has been good tears. Thanks to your postings and comments, your thoughts have helped me to consider all of Mark's amazing traits and all the reasons I so much loved him. I began working on the update, then gave up around 8 times before mustering some fortitude. I am rather happy I did it. I appreciate once more the final small push I required from the moderator SL/Marari01. It also helps me understand that I wish to undertake one more active VY time. Mark would have liked he consistently brought his starting work to completion. I will find out what has happened by talking to his buddies. I'll try to get myself current with everyone's outcome. I know some of it already. I tell you ahead of time. It will be merely the facts, not like Mark's writing, though. I lack Mark's natural storytelling ability. The comments clearly indicate that many people were hoping for a resolution. The bare facts will have to be sufficient. Please forgive. I'm going to talk to the VYD, the guy he contacted. He has been a total rock for me. With luck, he will be able to cover all as soon as I can. I'll input the change. I greatly appreciate it all. You are unaware of the extent this has benefited. Friday, May 25th, 2020, mostly because to what you all wrote yesterday, I had a better day. I woke up today enraged and cannot seem to calm myself. England observes a public holiday today, and I find myself wondering what we would be doing if Mark were here. He never threw a holiday away. I'm furious since just because some self-serve VYing couldn't wait to respond to a text message, I have lost the best person I have ever known in my life. I find the stupidity and unfairness intolerable. He will spend a few years behind bars. Not one thing, though, will bring my Mark back. Sorry, folks. I simply needed to let out a vent. Please kindly avoid using your phone. While DRI, VYing, also avoid tolerating others doing it.